Hey everyone, I hope that you are doing well. We are continuing our journey through 4th edition and treating it as though it was the latest edition to be released, and we're learning everything about it with an eye towards whether we are coming from a previous edition of the game, which we are in our world considering all to include 5th edition and 5th edition 2024, or if you're brand new to Dungeons & Dragons and you're just learning the game for the first time, how might you look at this game and interpret it, and what's some things that we would want to make sure that everybody is aware of. So these videos, I am now actually creating some characters. I am building out a party that I can use for doing some of the demos as we start talking about some of the specific rules like combat and movement and things like that. So I didn't intentionally plan that I was going to be building out a party, but after doing a couple characters, I realized that, hey, I'm actually, I've kind of got a couple of the roles filled. Let me just follow through on that. So we are going through that. We've actually built a defender in a form of a Dragonborn fighter, and then we did a striker with a a dwarf rogue, and then we did another defender with a tiefling paladin. Then we did a spellcaster or a controller with a what was our controller? It was a Ladrin wizard, sorry. And then today we are going to round it out with our leader, who is going to be a Dragonborn Warlord. So I was struggling with this one to figure out what race to use for this one, because I wanted to mix it up. I didn't really want to duplicate a race I'd already done, so I have a Dragonborn fighter. But I also didn't want to have to deal with the complexities of having a race that didn't really fit the key abilities that I need for the class that I'm trying to build. So a Warlord has key abilities that we'll see in a second that fit well with a Dragonborn. And so rather than try to make it fit somewhere else, just to arbitrarily use a race that I'm not using, we're just going to have a party that has 2 Dragonborns in it. So that's what we're going to build today, and we'll go step by step through it, and we'll see if we can cover everything and any of the nuances that go with building out a Warlord, which is a exclusive 4th edition class. I don't believe that a Warlord exists outside of 4th edition. If somebody knows differently, please do share that in the comments. But this one is definitely something special. I did want to include one. Instead of doing a cleric, I wanted to do a Warlord because it is something special to 4th edition. So we will get to that. Before I do, if you enjoy this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to get early access to the videos, you can become a member to the channel. And if you want to get access to the Discord server, you can become a member over at Ko-fi. Details on how to do both of those things are down in the description. But let's jump into creating our Dragonborn Warlord. And so over in Chapter 2 on creating a character, flip over there and you can see our steps. I think I'm going to, because I probably drive people crazy when I go out of order when I build the characters. We have these, they took all the time to go through and come up with this nice 9-step process to building out your characters. And then I completely ruin it because I go out of sequence with everything. So let's try to go in order if we can, and then we'll see how it goes using that. There's a couple things I probably still will do out of order, just because it doesn't make sense to do them the way they have it here. So, but I will, at a minimum, I will do the ability scores when I'm supposed to do the ability scores and not save it to the end like I usually do. With that said, let's jump ahead and start looking at this. Now, we've already done a Dragonborn, so this is not new to us. So some of the stuff we see here will be stuff that we've already seen when we built our Dragonborn fighter, but we'll go through it anyway. So this is a level 1 character, and the class is going to be a Warlord, and no Paragon, Epic Destiny, 0 XP to start with, and we got a Dragonborn. Size is going to be medium. So we'll put our M right there. And as always, I will leave the age, gender, height, weight, even the alignment. I leave those things blank. I'll let you, if you want to use these characters yourself, you can fill those details in. I'm mostly focused on the mechanical aspects of how to build the character, the more personality type things and physical traits and things I will leave to you if you decide to download this character and use it for yourself. The bonuses that we're going to get for our Dragonborn are going to be a +2 to strength and a +2 to charisma. So I will do a +2 to strength and a +2 to charisma. Those are just placeholders. Later on, when we determine our ability scores, I will know what bonuses I'm going to get for from my race. There is a box here you could use as well if you desire, but I usually just throw it right into that field. Next, we have our speed. Base speed is going to be 6 squares. And then our vision is going to be normal. We wouldn't necessarily need to write normal vision because by default you would think that your vision is normal, but I will go ahead and write it in here anyway. Other characters or races have low light vision, possibly dark vision, and so that's where you get something special with it. Normal vision is just normal vision. Then we have our languages, which will be common and draconic. Excuse me, I'll get rid of that. So we got common, draconic. Our skill bonuses, we will get a +2 to history and a +2 to intimidate. So history, we'll put that over here, a +2 to history and a +2 to intimidate. And then we get our racial features. So first is Dragonborn Fury. When we're bloodied, we gain a +1 racial bonus to attack rolls. So we'll make a note of Dragonborn Fury. And of course, we will put the page number that is on, which is page 34 of the player's handbook. So that's not, we can't really make a note of the specific thing because it only ties to if you're bloodied. So having the page number is something you can flip to really quickly to understand and try to remember that you have that. When you get bloodied, you get a bonus to your attack rolls. Next is Draconic Heritage, where your healing surge value is equal to 1/4 of your maximum hit points plus your Constitution modifier. So that comes in handy. So this one we could make a note of. So we'll Draconic Heritage. And so this one, our surge value is going to be our maximum hit points plus 1/4 of your maximum hit points plus your Constitution modifier. So I'm going to put plus con in that so that we can remember later on when we determine our ability scores and what our modifiers are. I will have that reference to remind myself that we also get to add our Constitution modifier. I'll put a M at the end of it just to make sure I don't accidentally add the Constitution score instead of modifier. And then finally we have Dragon Breath. Now Dragon Breath is a power that we get to use. And it's a minor action, and we have to make a couple choices with that. So let me flip over to the second page here because this is an encounter power. And we'll go ahead and write it down here. And we'll make a few notes. Hopefully they all fit. So first, it's a minor action, which is important, and we have to make two choices. The first is what type of damage we're going to deal with it. And I don't exactly remember what type of damage our fighter, who's also a Dragonborn, dealt, but we probably would like to mix that up a little bit so they get two different types of damage. I believe it was probably either cold or lightning. That seems to be what I'm remembering. So I'm going to actually go with acid damage for this one. So I'll just write acid. And then we have to choose which ability we're going to use for our attack. So the attack roll for Dragon Breath can either be our strength versus reflex, our constitution versus reflex, or our dexterity versus reflex. Based on the type of character we're building, strength is going to be one of our big scores. So we get a bonus to strength here. And because we're going to do a warlord, which also keys off of strength, we're going to really put a lot of our ability score into strength. So that's the one that we're going to use. So let me make a note of that. So it's going to be strength. And I will go ahead and put a reference to the page number for that as well. So that is our last racial ability that we have. And we've covered everything for the Dragonborn for the character sheet. So let's take a look back at our character creation, and we did the race. And so basically it's really just saying, go and decide what your race is. It doesn't actually specifically say to, write things down or anything like that. It's just saying to choose the race, which we did, and we made note of it. Next is going to be choosing the class. Now this is where things get a little weird because since I'm going to be choosing the class, there's a lot of information I'm going to get while I'm on that screen or on that page with the Warlord class, including the skills and also as even the powers. So for me, I like to make note of all that stuff since I'm there, so I don't have to then flip back to it later. So I am going to do that this time. So I am going to go a little bit out of order for those. but I think that makes more sense than trying to flip back and forth later on. So let's flip over to our Warlord. And again, you know, I love how 4th edition just puts everything in these nice boxes, so it's really easy to build out your characters. So the Warlord is a leader, and they are a martial. They get their power sources martial. Key abilities: strength, intelligence, charisma. And if you see, we have strength and charisma as 2 that we're going to get bonuses for. So that'll be very well. The only one, the intelligence is the second most important, but we will, so we don't get a bonus there. We'll just figure that out when we do our ability scores. Next, we have our armor proficiencies: cloth, leather, hide, chainmail, and light shields. Weapon proficiencies: simple melee, military melee, and simple ranged. And then we get a bonus to defense for fortitude and will. So let's go ahead and write that in. So fortitude, we get a +1, and for will, we also get a +1. So we'll start with that. Next, hit points at first level is 12 plus our constitution score. So your max hit points is always going to be plus your constitution score, and your surges per day is always going to be plus your constitution modifier. So I don't really need to specify that. I'm just going to specify what the amount is. So this is going to be 12 plus, and then I'll just know that max hit points, you always add your constitution score. And then surges per day is 7 plus, and it's going to be your constitution modifier. So that'll be my key. Once we choose our ability scores and do our calculations, we'll be able to populate those. And just by including the plus sign in there, it just gives me a little indicator that that's not my value. That is just an indicator to help me do the calculation later. All right, now if you remember in the character creation thing, it doesn't tell us to do the skills here. Choosing the skills is actually step 4. And then you choose your power. So tell you what, all right, I lied again. Let me do that. So the next thing we're going to choose is, I would do normally, is go and choose my skills, because it's right there on the page. The next thing it has is the skills, as well as the next couple things for the class. But tell you what, let's follow along with the way the book tells us to do it. And the next thing we're going to do is our ability scores. So with that, we're going to use the standard array, which is 16, 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10. I toyed with the idea of actually using method 3, which is to actually roll for the scores, but I'll save that for another time. I didn't want to use that for this character, but I will make one later on where I roll for the scores. But 16, 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10. Because we know that strength is going to be the thing that we're going to really lean into. If we do skip ahead and look at our powers, we'll be able to see that strength is the key ability for lots of the powers that are out there. So we definitely want to have good strength in our for our characters. So we're going to go ahead and put that 16 into strength, which will, with our +2 bonus, that's going to make that an 18 for our strength. So we're off and running there. Now, the next thing, and this is kind of why I like to make some of the other choices first, because now the key abilities for the Warlord were intelligence and charisma. And so intelligence was the next most important one. So now we kind of got to flip back to the Warlord, excuse me, not the wizard, the Warlord, and take a look and see, why is intelligence the most important one, or the second most important one? What am I going to get from it? So we do know that if we want to choose the tactical presence, then the intelligence modifier is where you're going to get your bonus. If you choose the inspiring presence, then it's going to be your charisma modifier. So we have a bonus to our charisma modifier from being a Dragonborn, so we might want to lean towards the inspiring presence versus the tactical presence. I was kind of feeling like I wanted to do tactical presence, so but let's take a look at some of the other ones. So if our commander strike is going to be it's going to do some allies basic attack damage plus it's going to be plus your intelligence modifier, and then so we need our intelligence modifier for that one. I don't see other ones. This one is going to be plus your strength modifier, so we're okay there. Guarding attack will use charisma. Hammer and anvil uses charisma. That one doesn't use anything. Warlord's favor is going to use intelligence. So, you know, taking a look, there's some that use charisma. There's another one with charisma. And looking at some of these for our daily powers. I don't see much else there. So we kind of, you know, it's almost 50-50 what we want to choose. We can either choose to put a higher number in charisma or higher number in intelligence, depending on what which way we want to go with it. So here's what we're gonna do: is we're gonna take, if we go back to the scores, our next score that we're trying to assign is a 14. Well, if I put the, we could. I think what we can do is we can put the 14 into intelligence, because I don't get any bonus for that one. And then I'll put a 13 into charisma, and then with my +2, that's going to raise it to be a 15. So now I've got pretty good scores for all of those across the board. And now I've done my 16, my 14, and my 13. I've got 12, 11, and 10. Constitution is going to be helpful as far as our armor class and our defenses, so we probably want to put our 12 in there just so we have some bonus. And then I don't expect to be a terribly dexterous character, but I'll put the 11 in the wisdom and 10 in the dexterity. So and there you go. Now we have our ability scores, and I have followed along with the instructions as it says to do so. Generate your ability scores. So it doesn't actually say to do all the math yet. That's going to come later. So now we can go back to our warlord and actually pick out our skills and continue the rest of the stuff. But anyway, that's kind of why I like to do the other stuff first, because for me, I feel like it's better to get all my skills and choose my powers and make all those decisions before I go in, and because then I know what I've made, what decisions I've made, and what I'm going to need for my character. So when I go to do my ability scores, I already know all that stuff. Here, I kind of had to skip around a little bit to try to make some assessments in advance of actually making the choices. But whatever works for you is fine. So the next thing we got is our skills. And so from the class skill list below, choose 4 trained skills. So normally you get a skill and then it tells you to choose a few more from the list below. Here it doesn't tell you to choose any one. You just choose 4 from the list. So we have athletics, diplomacy, endurance, heal, history, and intimidate. So I think for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 there. We get to choose 4 of them. Charisma is something we're pretty good at. Strength is something we're good at. I think we'll do heal, even though we don't have much in the way of wisdom. Healing is something that we probably want to have some ability in. So why don't we be trained in those? So for those, we're gonna get a +5 bonus in these 4. Will be athletics. So we're trained in that one. We get a 5. We're going to be trained in heal, and we'll get a 5 for that one as well. Then we're trained in intimidate, and sorry, I skipped over diplomacy. Actually, I'm not going to do diplomacy. I'm going to do endurance instead of diplomacy. I think that seems to fit better for me anyway. All right, so there we go. That's our skills that we've chosen. And now we have a couple build options, and let's go back to our character creation thing and see what it says. So we chose our skills. Now powers is step number 6. So I think I'll hold off on doing anything more with the class, and we'll do that on step 6. The next thing it says is to choose our feats. Now this is where you could see the benefit of choosing your ability scores at this point, where it said to, is that when we go to choose our feats, some of these have prerequisites that indicate a certain ability score level. If you watch me when I created my other characters, I didn't have my ability scores yet, so I kind of just had to speculate that I would be choosing an ability score that would be high enough to satisfy the prerequisite. But now this time around, I've already done my ability score, so I know if I have a ability score that is good enough to meet that requirement. So I was looking at these a little bit in advance because there's so many. I was trying to just get ahead of that and make that decision. The logical choice here would be to choose this tactical assault, which is a prerequisite of having to be a warlord, but you also have to have the tactical presence class feature. So if we go back to our warlord, what we will see is that's one of the choices that we get to make as far as commanding presence. We can either have the inspiring presence or the tactical presence. And the inspiring presence, when an ally who can see you spends an action point to take an extra action, that ally also regains hit points equal to 1/2 your level plus your charisma modifier. Tactical presence, when an ally you can see spends an action point to make an attack, the ally gains a bonus to the attack roll equal to 1/2 your intelligence modifier. So we choose which ones of those we want. Now, one, the bonus is based on charisma. The other one, the bonus is based on intelligence. But when we were doing our stuff, we put 14 into intelligence and 15 into charisma, which means the charisma bonus modifier and the intelligence modifier are both going to be the same. They're both going to be a +2. So it doesn't really matter which one we choose. I was going to go lean towards the tactical presence, and so that works just fine based on what we've assigned for our ability scores. So we'll be able to add our +2 bonus from our intelligence there. And so heading back to our feats, this now fits Tactical Assault. We are a Warlord. We will choose the Tactical Presence class feature, and with that one, the ally gains bonus to damage equal to your intelligence modifier. So they will get a bonus based on my intelligence modifier for when the Tactical Presence is in effect. So let's make a note of what page number that description is on. It is on page 201, and let's go ahead and write that down. So I wasn't intentionally trying to make that sound more complicated than it was by flipping around, but to me, that's why I like to do things in the order that I do them, because I would have already made that decision before I got to my feat selection. So you kind of, it's like, I know when I select a feat, I haven't figured out my ability scores yet, but I kind of know what they're going to be. Whereas if I follow the steps exactly as they're written here, I haven't actually written down all the details for my class yet. So that also causes some confusion. Anyway, how you do it is up to you. Whatever works for you is best. And more power to you. So now we have done our feat, and the next thing is to choose our powers. So this is where we'll go through all the rest of the stuff for our Warlord and start making note of it. There are the two build options, Inspiring Warlord and Tactical Warlord. As I always say, these are optional. They're just guides to help you do a quick build if you want. You don't have to use them. They're especially important if you are a new player and you're just wanting to get into the game as quick as you can. You can use one of these to just get your character built and off you go. We're not going to use either of those, so we're going to make our selections all our own. So first feature that we get is Combat Leader. You and each ally within 10 squares who can see and hear you gain a +2 power bonus to initiative. So this is one of our class features, and we will make a note of that. Combat Leader. All right, and I'll put that page number as well. It's page 144. And then we have our Commanding Presence. So I'm just going to write which one I'm choosing, which we are doing the tactical. Ooh, that's tactical presence. And then that connects directly to our Tactical Assault. So this one, so this by default, it's the bonus is 1/2 of our intelligence modifier. The Tactical Assault makes it equal to our modifier. So we get a little bit extra that we get to deal. And as we level up, that will be even better. And then finally, we have Inspiring Word, which is actually a power that is listed right here on the next page. So we'll go over to our powers page, and it is an encounter power. And it is Inspiring Word. It is also a minor action, so I want to make a note of that. And it is you can use this power twice per encounter, but only once per round. So I'm going to put a little 2x on that one, just so we have a reference that this is something that we can do twice per encounter, not limited to just once per encounter as you normally would be. So that is our class features for the Warlord. And next we get to actually pick our powers. So we're going to get 2 at-will powers, 1 encounter power, 1 daily power. And let's take a look at what we have for our at-will powers. We have 4 to choose from. We get to pick 2. Commander Strike, Furious Smash, Viper Strike, and Wolfpack Tactics. Commander Strike, So this one, an ally. So we basically choose a creature, and an ally gets to make an attack, a melee basic attack against that creature. And then they get damage in addition to the regular damage they would deal. They get to add our intelligence modifier. So that's actually not too bad, because that is, you know, we may have other people who have better basic attacks than we do, and we can just basically tell them, you go make an attack, and they get a second attack during that round and a little bit extra damage. Next, Furious Smash. It's versus Fortitude, which is interesting. And you deal damage equal to your strength modifier, and then choose an ally adjacent to either you or the target. This ally applies your charisma modifier as a power bonus to the attack roll and damage roll of his or her next attack against the target. If the ally does not attack the target by the end of the next turn, the bonus is lost. So just basically lets you give a bonus to an ally. Viper Strike. If the target shifts before the start of the next turn, it provokes an opportunity attack from an ally of your choice. So normally a shift would not provoke an opportunity attack, but here it would. This one could come in handy if you know that if an enemy is being flanked and they might be in a position where they would want to shift and to not be flanked anymore or something like that. They would still give up the opportunity attack if you use this. I'm not crazy about this, because it's very specific in a situation that would have to come up for this one to be of value. Now, I mean, by default, it's going to do your regular weapon damage plus your strength modifier, so it's going to be a normal attack. The effect that you get from it, to me, is so specific. It's kind of weird to waste. I don't want to say waste, but to consume one of your at-will power slots with something that's that specific. And then Wolfpack Tactics. Before you attack, you let one ally adjacent to either you or the target shift one square as a free action. And then your attack is basically a normal attack because it's versus AC, and then you add your strength modifier. So that is our choices that we have. I think I definitely like Commander Strike. And then I think I'm going to do Furious Smash. I like it because it's versus Fortitude, so it's something a little bit different. So Commander Strike and Furious Smash, I think, are the two that we're going to go with. These are our at-will powers. And Furious Smash. And as always, page number. All right, and then we get our encounter powers. And we have, I think, is there 4? There are 4. Guarding Attack, Hammer and Anvil, Leaf on the Wind, and Warlord's Favor. We get to choose one of these, and you'll notice that they, two of them have a reference where this one, if you have the Inspiring Presence, then the power bonus to armor class equals 1 plus your charisma modifier. So this one grants a power bonus to armor class. If you have Inspiring Presence, it's going to grant a little bit extra based on your charisma modifier. This one down here, Warlord's Favor, if you have Tactical Presence, then the bonus to the attack roll that you grant equals 1 plus your intelligence modifier. So if depending on which tactical presence you chose, or excuse me, commanding presence you chose, you're probably going to want to lean towards one of those. There's nothing that says you have to. We could choose Guarding Attack, even though we have the tactical presence, commanding presence feature, but we just wouldn't get to use this extra bonus. But I think we will lean into our character the way that we're building it, and we will choose Warlord's Favor. Hammer and Anvil and Leaf on the Wind, they don't give you anything for that extra thing, so I'm going to just take a glance at those. So you do get 2 weapon damage plus strength, which is the same as Warlord's Favor, and you or an ally adjacent to the target swaps places with the target. So that's kind of interesting. You can actually swap places with the target. Hammer and Anvil, it's versus Reflex, which is nice. 1 weapon damage plus strength modifier, and 1 ally adjacent to the target makes a basic attack against it. As a free action, the ally adds your charisma modifier to damage. So again, it's similar to a couple of our at-wills where you get to, someone else gets to make an attack against that creature. But I think Warlord's Favor is a good one for what we're trying to do. All right, and then finally, we get our daily power, and we have 4 daily powers to choose from. We get to choose one of these. There's nothing special as far as our tactical presence goes on here. One of the things I look for on daily powers to see if any of them are reliable, which they are not. If a reliable daily power means that if you miss with the attack, then you don't use the power. You get to use that power again, so that can come in handy. These 2 of them give you an effect even on a miss, which also is nice. So even if you do miss on the attack, then you still get a little something. So that's one of my frustrating things always. You're finally going to use your daily power, and then you do it and you roll and you miss and you just feel like you've wasted it. So I like the ones that are reliable so that you can keep reusing them if you miss, and the ones that have a miss damage that they do as well. But Bastion of Defense, 3 weapon damage. Allies within 5 squares gain a +1 to their defenses, and allies within 5 squares, if you gain temporary hit points equal to 5 plus your charisma modifier. So that one's pretty nice. 3 weapon damage for lead the attack. Till the end of the counter, you and each ally with 5 squares of you gain a power bonus to attack rolls against that target equal to 1 plus your intelligence. And then and if you miss until the end of the counter, you and each ally within 5 squares get a +1 power bonus to the attack rolls against. So that one's just a +1. If you hit, it's +1 plus your intelligence. Whereas if you miss, then the bonus is just a +1. Pin the foe, 3 weapon damage. Until the end of the encounter, the target cannot shift if at least 2 of your allies are adjacent to it. Again, that one sounds very specific. You got to be, I mean, that's good, but it's, you've got to be positioned just right, and you'd have to be working together to make sure people are in that spot so that you could then use this power. So I tend to lean away from those though, because you're really restricted in how you use it, and make sure you got to use it a certain way. And then White Raven Onslaught, 3 weapon damage. Strength modifier, you slide an adjacent ally 1 square until the end of the encounter. When you or an ally within 10 squares of you makes a successful attack, the attacker slides an adjacent ally 1 square. And then on a miss, until the adjacent ally 1 square after making some. So that one is okay. It's good. I like the movement. I like the notion of movement. But again, you're kind of like really needing to be very specific in what you can do. So it is nice sometimes to make those moves and be able to kind of move people when it's not their turn, outside of regular movement, and then they can move somebody else as well. So that can come in handy. But I think I'm going to go with I think lead the attack as the one. I think actually I'm going to do Bastion of Defense, because I do want to do, well, it's the charisma modifier one. I always like to have healing. I'm always thinking about what kind of healing I can do during combat. So it does grant some temporary hit points, which is nice. This one, yeah, we'll do lead the attack. So we have tactical presence is what we had chosen as our class feature. So we're maybe a little less about the healing as much as we are about just kind of giving boosts to everybody. So we'll go ahead and do lead the attack. And there we go. That is our powers. We have chosen all of the powers for our warlord. Let's head back to our character creation, race, class. We did our ability scores. We did our skills. We selected our feat. We selected our powers. And now we have our equipment to choose. So we have 100 gold to work with to get our equipment. And I did look ahead to see what we had available to us. So I had a few ideas here. If we remember, for our warlord, we are proficient in cloth, leather, hide, and chainmail armor, and light shields. And we are proficient in simple melee, military melee, and simple range. So that's kind of our guide. We want to make sure that we're using things that we are proficient with, so we get all the necessary bonuses with it. So if we look at the armor table, we have 100 gold to spend. And we are proficient on things up to chainmail. So we are not proficient in scale or plate or heavy shields. We are proficient in light shields if we wanted to do that. But so chainmail is the highest as far as armor goes. So it's 40 gold for that. I think we'll go ahead and do that. So we will spend our 40 gold to get chainmail. And that is going to give us a +6 to our armor class. So we will add that here. And now chainmail is heavy armor, so it's just going to be +6. We're not going to get to add anything else to it. It does have a -1 check penalty. So if you see this column here where it says armor penalty, we have to put a -1 into each of those boxes because we're wearing this heavy armor that's going to impede our ability to do things like acrobatics checks and thievery checks and things like that. And then it also has a -1 to our speed. And so we will put that up here in this armor box to indicate it is a -1 to our speed. It is heavy armor. It is going to slow us down. And that's what we get for our chainmail armor. And that cost us 40 gold. Next, we have our weapons. And this character is going to be more of a melee character, so I'm going to probably just get a melee weapon to, and if you looked at the powers, a lot of them were melee attack powers, so we're going to focus on that. And to save time, I looked ahead and I decided, I looked at the Dragonborn fighter that we have has a great axe, and I didn't want to do the same thing, so I decided to do a halberd, and that is this axe looking thing right here. So that's what we're going to get for our weapon for our warlord. So let me go ahead and write that down. So we'll put that, and that's going to cost us 25 gold. So we've spent 65 gold so far. And I'm going to write that down in here so that we can make note of the two things. So as halberd we are proficient with it. So it is a +2 bonus. And so we will make proficiency. It'll be a 2 there. And then the damage that we're going to get is a 1d10. So we'll write that down right here. 1d10. And then 12 pounds. It is the axe and pole arm are just the type of weapon that it is. Axe being that it looks like an axe, but the pole arm means that it is on a long pole, which gives it the reach characteristic. So with a reach weapon, you can attack enemies that are 2 squares away from you, as well as adjacent enemies with no attack penalty. You can still make opportunity attacks only against adjacent enemies. Likewise, you can flank only an adjacent enemy. So the nice thing is, if you look at it, it is on this long pole. So I can make a melee attack without actually being adjacent to that enemy, which can be really nice, because then if I can make that attack, I can move away without needing to shift or give up an opportunity attack. So that comes in handy, and that seems to fit what I would like for my warlord to be able to do. And that is what we're going to get there. That's all we need to make note of as far as our weapons. And then finally, we're going to get our adventuring gear. And as always, we will just keep it simple. Standard adventurer's kit. And I don't believe that we're going to get anything else beyond that. The adventurer's kit pretty much covers everything. Now, we could go through and get a ranged weapon, but I'm not going to do that for this one. Everything that we have is really based on the melee attacks. But if you decide to use this character and you've got enough gold to purchase a ranged weapon, you can certainly feel free to do that. There are some pretty cheap ranged weapons out there. So, but we spent 40 on the chainmail, we spent 25 on the halberd, and we spent 15 on the standard adventurer's kit. So that, by my math, that's 40 plus 25 is 65 plus 15 is 80. So we spent 80 gold, which leaves us with 20 gold left over. All right, we have our equipment. And next, going back here, we did race, class, ability scores, skills, feats, powers, equipment. Now we fill in the numbers. So normally this would be where I'd actually determine my ability scores, but I have already done that, so we will start filling in the numbers. Our ability score modifiers are right here, so you can look at the table to figure out what it is. In my head, what I do is if you just take the ones digit and then divide it by 2, that's basically your ability score, and round down, of course. So 18. So if you just take the 8 and divide that by 2, that's going to be a 4. The 2 divided by 1 is going to be 1. 0 is going to be 0. 4 divided by 2 is going to be a 2. 1 divided by 2 and rounded down is going to be a 0. And then 5 divided by 2 rounded down is going to be a 2. And that's how I kind of do that in my head, but you can check my math and look at the table if you'd like as well. We are level 1, so modifier plus half level is not going to add anything to it. These will be exactly the same. So we'll just fill those out. And 2. And then we'll start carrying everything over. So we're going to take the higher of these two values. So the 4 and the 1, the higher value is the 4. So we will put that here. And then I'll do it from all these. And then the higher of these two values is the 2, and that's what'll go there. And then the higher of these two values is also 2, and that'll go there. And then in the first field, you get 10 plus half level, which for level 1, that'll just be a 10. And we carry those across. And now we have those defenses. For our armor class, we already have the armor class that we got there, and that is going to be then 10 plus half level, which means our armor class is going to be a 16. For our initiative, we get to add our dexterity modifier, which is 0, so we don't add, so that our initiative is still going to be 0. And then we'll work our way down. Hit points. So now we have our max hit points is 12 plus our constitution score. Constitution score is 12, which means our maximum hit points is going to be 24. Bloodied is going to be half of that, which makes it 12. And then if you remember, we have our Dragonborn Fury, I believe it was, that when we are, oh, sorry, no, it's not the Dragonborn Fury, it's a Draconic Heritage. That gives us our surge value, that where we get to, it's normally just 1/4 of our hit points, which would make it a 6. So, but we get to add our constitution modifier. Our constitution modifier is 1. So instead of it being 6, it will be 7. And then finally, our surges per day is going to be 7 plus our constitution modifier. Again, our constitution modifier is 1. So the surges per day will be 8. And now we've got that. We get our 1 action point. Always. Then we can do our attack workspace. So half level again is 0. The ability score for a melee weapon is going to be our strength, which is a 4. So we will put a 4 in there. And I don't believe we have anything else that we can add there. So that's going to be, so our halberd is going to be a +6 bonus when we attack with the halberd. And then for the damage, we get to add that strength modifier as well there. So our damage for it is going to be 1d10 plus 4. So when you make an attack with the halberd, it's going to be a 1d10 plus 4. If you look at the powers that you have, any of these powers that say they're strength versus AC, so you're going to be using a melee weapon to make this attack, which means in our case, we're going to be using that halberd. And so it would be a +6 versus armor class for that. So if we want to go ahead and write that down. So our at-will powers are Commander's Strike and Furious Smash. So I'll just write down the 1. Commander's Strike. And it is going to be a +6 versus armor class. And then the damage, like we calculated up there, look here is... So that's an interesting one. So target 1 creature. Oh, sorry. That's not right. Commander Strike is not. I don't make the attack for Commander Strike. So sorry. Those of you that caught that, congratulations. So with Commander Strike, I'm not making the attack. I'm choosing an ally to make an attack. And so I tell an ally to make an attack. So I don't actually make an attack with Commander Strike. So we'll do Furious Smash as the one that we write in here. This is going to be strength versus fortitude. So it's essentially saying that we'll use our halberd, and we already have it with our strength. So it's going to be a +6, but it's going to be versus fortitude in that case. And our damage is going to be, you deal damage equal to your strength modifier, and then choose one ally adjacent to you or the target. This, they get a bonus to that. So the damage that we do here is just our strength modifier. So it's just going to be 4 damage is the way I read that. So if somebody's reading that differently, because normally it would tell you apply the weapon damage, like 1W or 2W. This one, it's not saying that. The damage is equal to your strength modifier, and then you get to have an ally, get a bonus to an ally. So in the case of Furious Smash, you just do 4 damage, which is our strength modifier. All right, and then continuing on down, we get to our skills, and you can see that it auto-calculated our skills. It took our ability modifiers here and auto-populated them. So you can see that those values here, we have pretty strong athletics, pretty strong intimidate, stealth, and thievery, not so much. And then finally, we have our passive insight and passive perception. Those are both 0 because those are wisdom based, and we don't have anything. We don't have any bonus for our wisdom. So those are 0, which means our passive for both of those is just going to be 10. And there we go. We've done it. We've gone through and created characters for our entire adventuring party to use for when I start doing some demos. I don't believe I missed anything here. We have all of the math done. We have everything chosen, and we've got 20 gold left over. So I think we're in good shape. If I made any errors, please do let me know. But I like this one because the Warlord is something that is distinct for 4th edition, and it's something special because it did not carry forward, certainly at least as part of the core books. It's something that would just exist in 4th edition, which is nice. So for our adventuring party that we've created, we now have covered all of the roles, and in the book it actually tells you that if you are there are 4 roles, and this is a party is typically 5 people. So when you start doubling up, it says to double up on the defender first, which is what we did. We have a fighter and we have a paladin. We also have a striker, and we have a leader, and we have a controller now. So we are in pretty good shape, and I'm going to take all of these. I will polish them up a little bit, and I will get these character sheets up onto my website. So if you are curious in using these characters and you want to follow along when we start doing some demos, great. We will. You can download them and use them, and if you want to use them in other purposes, you can customize them as you see fit to with the gender and height and weight and all those sorts of things. And I will give them names for the purposes of our demos and stuff, but then you can give them your own names if you decide to use the characters. So, but again, if I missed anything, got any calculations wrong, drop those in the comments. Let me know. This type of thing, no matter how many times you create characters or play the game, there's always some small thing that sometimes you overlook. So I appreciate the feedback on that. And that's our adventuring party, and that is our Dragonborn Warlord for our party. And so I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the description for other ways that you can support the content through channel memberships or through the Ko-fi membership if you want Discord server access. So, but if you have anything to add from what I did, please put that down in the comments. Any other thoughts on other characters you'd like to create, put those down in the comments as well. Love to hear from you. Any other videos you'd like to see if you're learning 4th edition or Dungeons and Dragons. Again, comments is the place to go. Put all that stuff, and I love seeing those, so it gives me an idea of what kinds of things people would like to see. So definitely like that. But there we go. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care.